What is Oumuamua? Comet, rogue asteroid, or, I kid you not, shipwreck? Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is another Declaration of Truth from your host, Terry A. Hurlbut. Nearly 5.5 years ago, astronomers at the Haleakala Observatory in Hawaii discovered something none of them expected. It was a cigar-shaped object, at least they thought it was cigar-shaped, making a hyperbolic pass at the sun. And so they concluded it was an interstellar object. They named this object Oumuamua, which means scout or first messenger from afar in Hawaii. But this object did not dive in and coast out. Apparently it accelerated on the outward leg of the hyperbola. This has led at least one professional astronomer and one amateur space enthusiast to insist that someone built this object. Feverish speculation along this line dominated science news until last week. Two scientists from Cal, Berkeley, and Cornell now think they know why this object accelerated on its way out, but their theory might not settle the debate. And in my opinion, both their theory and the original theory are wrong. I'm going to talk about both theories, the built object and the natural object, and then give you my theory, or rather a theory from a very good friend of mine. Before I begin, I do want to shout out to the prime sponsor of this channel, which is Conservative News and Views. Link in the description. Be sure to check out the awesome CNAV Store. Scroll down near the bottom for that link. Lots of great merchandise there, especially this t-shirt that I have chosen for today, which depicts possibly the most important vessel ever built, the life ship of Noah. And then quotes Noah the shipwright saying, "Sometimes faith will make you look stupid until it rains." One more thing, if you like what you're about to hear, you can like this video. You can also click the bell icon to get a notice every time I come out with a new one. In fact, do you see the new icon, the heart shape with the US dollar sign in it? That's the super thanks icon. If you really want to keep these videos coming, click that and leave me a tip. Any currency will do, so long as it's legal tender. Now, all right, we start with the $1,024,000 question. Just what is Oumuamua? Before I dive into that, I'm going to start with a quote from Scripture. "Why are the nations in an uproar and the peoples devising a vain thing?" Psalm 2, verse 1, New American Standard Bible, 1995 edition. Wikipedia has the current data on Oumuamua and the facts of its discovery. Breathless astronomers call it an interstellar object, the first of its kind anyone has ever seen. More sober-minded astronomers call it a hyperbolic asteroid by reason of its path. It is more likely a long-period comet. And don't worry, I'll make all of that clear toward the end. At its closest approach to the sun, Oumuamua came within a quarter of the distance from Earth to the sun. As such, it came inside even the orbit of Mercury. On its way out, it approached even more closely to Mercury, Venus, and the Earth. In fact, the Hawaiian astronomers saw it so easily because it was closely approaching Earth on its way out. The eccentricity of its path is 1.2, consistent with an hyperbola. For you mathematicians out there, eccentricity is a quantitative description of the unevenness or the stretching of certain kinds of paths. The eccentricity of a circle is 0. That of an ellipse is between 0 and 1. That of a parabola is 1. And that of a hyperbola is more than 1. Therefore, this object we call Oumuamua is flying faster than escape speed from the sun. The best estimates of its size are 250 yards long and 38 yards in its sideways dimension, give or take a yard, which makes it either a cigar shape or a disc that we're seeing edge on. This object is also tumbling, so it has no principal axis of spin. different astronomers have reported that its day at 7 or 8 hours, give or take 5 or 6 minutes. The most remarkable thing about the path of this object is that it deviated from a strict hyperbolic path before dwindling from sight. Therefore, trajectory might not be the word for its path. Maybe the course might fit it better. While I'm on the subject, I've left a link in the description to a truly excellent animated graphic that a gentleman named Tom Ruin, R-U-E-N, put together for Wikimedia Commons. It shows you the path Oumuamua took in relation to the sun and as many planets as he could add in symbols for, as far away as Saturn. For you legal eagles out there, he released it under a Creative Commons Attribution and Share Alike 4.0 international license. We now turn to two different theories about this object. Professor Avi Loeb of Harvard University has insisted, virtually since the Hawaii astronomers first saw it, that someone built Oumuamua. He gave an interview to Scientific American and told them that at the time he had planned building light sailboats laden with sensory equipment and using lasers to push them to nearby stars. When he first heard of Oumuamua, he seems to have decided right away this was a light sailboat, meaning a sailboat that uses light. Its proportions do not match those of any known maverick of the solar system. It is also 10 times brighter than most such objects. Conclusion, it is the first evidence of intelligent life beyond the solar system. He said so in a paper he published in late 2018. I have a link to that paper in the description. Now, he took a tremendous career risk putting that theory out there. In fact, I think the only reason he could get away with publishing such a theory without seeing all his grant monies dry up is that he has tenure. He has a Frank B. Baird Jr. Professorship of Science at Harvard. Now, that's apparently no small matter. But he has so far failed to convince anyone of his theory except for Jordan, the angry astronaut, Wright. In fact, his scientific colleagues treat him with scorn, and he seems to have returned the favor. But mostly, he says what many before him have said, that he has a competent mathematical basis for assuming that extraterrestrial civilizations have in fact arisen, and that one such civilization built this object, which he assumes for the moment is a derelict. That in turn means that its builders are long dead, and this object could be their last monument. On Wednesday, March 22nd, Jennifer Bergner and Seligson published their competing theory in the journal Nature. I have a link in the description to that paper. They conclude that Oumuamua is a comet, specifically a water-ice comet that underwent thermolysis or radiolysis to form molecular hydrogen and oxygen. And that radiolysis means that radiation in interstellar space caused water ice to separate into its component elements. As it passed incredibly close to the sun, it released its hydrogen load. That release propelled it on its outbound leg when the Hawaiian astronomers first saw it. And why can't we see the tail of this comet? Because hydrogen would have been effectively invisible, literally too thin to see. Several lay news organs picked up on the Nature article right away, but Avi Loeb poured contempt on it. Thus far, his responses appeared only at medium.com in a blog entry. I have a link to that blog entry in the description of this video. I also have one to Jordan Wright's video from yesterday in which he quoted from Loeb's rebuttal at some length. Loeb lists several problems with the Bergner-Seligson theory. First, he accuses them of mixing two failing models, i.e., a pure hydrogen iceberg and a pure water iceberg. And they admit neither thing could explain the observed motion. Next, he suggests that the hydrogen, once produced by thermolysis or radiolysis, would escape long before the object arrived. Furthermore, the outgassing should have changed the object's tumbling characteristics, and this did not happen. The biggest problem is the missing tail. Another alleged interstellar comet called Borisov has a tail. Where, he asks, is Oumuamua's tail? In fact, the same observatory in 2020 saw an apparent tailless comet. It turned out to be the booster from the failed Surveyor 2 mission in 1966. In other words, a big piece of space junk. Now, before I tell you what Loeb is now saying this object might be, I want to shout out to a sponsor who can really help you through the economic storms to come. That sponsor is oursilverlines.com. You feel like you're working harder for your money just to get by? You are not alone. The fluctuating economy, employment issues, and unexpected changes in life have left many families struggling over the past few years. Collecting gold and silver can help shield you against many of these challenges. But if you're like me many years ago, you don't know where or how to start. Our Silver Lines helps by connecting you with thousands of members who are creating and protecting true wealth by collecting precious metals. Whether you just want to collect rare and unique coins or take advantage of certain business opportunities that this company provides, either way, they can help you learn to live an exceptional life. Visit oursilverlines.com to learn how you can build a legacy for your future. There we are. Well, Avi Loeb returned to his original theory that someone built Oumuamua. He insists that it does not have a cigar shape at all, but a disc shape that we're seeing edge on. See, the object is 10 times brighter at one time of its day than another, leading him to favor the disc shape. He currently believes this object is either a light sail without its attached craft or a broken piece of a wrecked Dyson sphere. Now recall what I said in my God of the Gods video. Freeman Dyson proposed enclosing the sun in a shell, 1 astronomical unit in diameter, and living on the inner surface. I have a link in the description to his paper discussing that possibility, that Oumuamua is a chunk of broken off free-floating Dyson sphere wall. Then Loeb says this toward the end, quote, "The fundamental question that I am curious about is whether Oumuamua was natural or artificial in origin. If the next Oumuamua appears artificial, then we might feel like homeowners who identified all objects in their backyard as rocks, including those tennis balls, which originated from the cosmic street and were thrown by our neighbors." Unquote, Avi Loeb. Well, the problem with thinking that way is that by his own reckoning, the neighbors are long dead. So this object, if someone did build it, is more like a shingle blown off an abandoned house. That, of course, is the main problem with Avi Loeb's theory. It requires another one. Where did the builders come from? And where did they go? What could have destroyed a Kardashev Type 2 civilization, the only type capable of building a Dyson sphere? Did the civilization simply degenerate into anarchy, or did another civilization annihilate it in a war? I have an alternative, or rather Walt Brown, developer of the hydroplane theory of the global flood, has one, which he shared with me. Oumuamua and Borisov are long-period comets. Like all other comets, they form from ejected water, rock, and mud from the global flood. They simply flew further away from the sun than any of their fellows. Far enough, in fact, to be subject to the full gravitational influence of the sun and every other object in orbit around it. As they re-entered the inner solar system, they fell outside the influence of every object whose orbit they crossed. For Oumuamua, that definitely included all the gas giants, and indeed every object except the sun, even Mercury. So of course Oumuamua was following a hyperbolic path when the Hawaiian astronomers first saw it. It would also have the momentum it had accumulated along the way. By now, it is once again subject to more gravitational pull from other objects beyond the Earth. So, why doesn't it have a tail? Well, maybe it's a centaur. It's an object with both cometary and asteroidal properties. Or maybe it is what that other astronomer said it was, a hyperbolic asteroid. Now, long-period comets are, as Brown will be the first to tell you, the greatest weakness in his theory of cometary origin. I have a link in the description to the chapter in his online book, In the Beginning, Compelling Evidence for Creation and the Flood, which discusses the origin of comets. Here's the thing. Every other theory of cometary origin has deal killers that remove it from serious consideration, or they would. Except that the same tyrannical majority mindset that leads other scientists, ironically, to reject the extraterrestrial wreckage theory of Oumuamua also leads them to reject the global flood, with the result that Brown alone is talking about these deal killers. Worst of these is the finding of ice on the moon and Mercury, which no other comet origin theory can explain. And Jan Oort's cloud of comets theory accounts for the two weakest of the 7 theories of comet origin. They are the ones with the most strikes, those are the ones with the most strikes against them. An interstellar capture theory to explain all the comets actually exists, and that is almost as weak. Now, after I said that, I had to admit, Brown has not yet revised his book to account for Oumuamua or Borisov. These two are the first 2 hyperbolic mavericks that anyone has ever seen. Still, the only real weakness in that regard is the failure thus far to detect enough massive objects to account for gravitational attraction to change their orbits in the far reaches of the solar system. But even NASA itself admits that another planet-sized object might exist in those far reaches. They call it Planet X-ray, or Planet 9, and they believe it weighs 10 Earth masses and might orbit as far away as 600 astronomical units from the Sun. I have a link in the description to NASA's discussion of a hypothetical Planet X-ray. Now, if the solar system has an object as heavy as that, God must have created it to begin with, because that mass did not come from Earth. But some extra mass exists, for which we have not accounted. That mass could be all we need to explain Oumuamua, Borisov, and every long-period comet or other long-period object we know. Interestingly, even Avi Loeb seems to have abandoned any idea, if he entertained it at all, that Oumuamua is what the Hawaiian astronomers called it, a scout. No scout craft would tumble, not if it's functioning. If that's a vessel, then its crew must be getting space sick from their tumbling act. That is, if they're not all dead. The light sail, if that's what it is, could not provide consistent acceleration in a tumbling attitude. And no scout could conduct adequate reconnaissance without a stable platform for its cameras and antennae. So, perhaps to save his theory from utter absurdity, Loeb regards Oumuamua as a wreck, or a piece of wreckage. In short, a ruin 1,000 times older than Troy, to paraphrase Arthur C. Clarke. Still, Occam's razor defeats his theory, because it requires another one. The Bergner-Seligson theory suffers from a slightly different weakness, the non-viability of most comet origin theories. That is why I regard Oumuamua, which is probably more asteroid than comet, and Borisov, which definitely is a comet, as natural or wild-type objects, relics of the most violent event that this Earth has ever known. Links in the description of the article, to the Oumuamua trajectory animation file, to Avi Loeb's first paper, to Bergner and Seligson's paper, to Avi Loeb's blog entry at medium.com, to Jordan Wright's video, to Avi Loeb's second paper, to Walter T. Brown's theory of origin of comets, to NASA's discussion of the hypothetical planet X-ray, to my Declarations of Truth Twitter account, and to Conservative News and Views. I've also left links to the awesome CNAV Store and to rsilverlines.com, as I also mentioned. You know already about how to like a video, turn on notifications, and leave a tip. On the end screen, I'm going to leave a subscribe link to my channel and links to Jordan Wright's previous video, the video of yesterday, my earlier God of the Gats video, and to at least one other video discussing Oumuamua and what it might be. This is Terry A. Hurlbut delivering another declaration of truth and reminding you to let the truth set you free.